put it back in another manila bag, and send it out again. So there's that kind of just do it. But in terms of my own experience, I never wear like this necklace with this scarf. I'm wearing them on purpose. I purchased this in South Africa. There was a woman in South Africa who gathered a bunch of very impoverished women, taught them beading. They are bead artists. Now these women have such hard lives that their goal is to earn money to have safe housing because they don't have any transportation, so they walk. And unfortunately, walking from work to their home, they are abused.
Yes, they're kidnapped, raped.
I can't even talk about it. But these women make murals that are now in museums and signed pieces. Well, I was lucky enough to buy this, but it's just one little piece of one person that you meet. So yeah, if you want to be out and about in the world and have those kinds of experiences, which have enhanced my life, and not everybody likes it. Not everybody wants to be, it gets harder and harder to do,
sure.
You know, but it's so enhancing. But you need experiences to be able to come home.
Yes.
And whether you're writing fiction, or hopefully someday I'll do a memoir, or whatever you need experiences to write about them. So even young kids who write, this granddaughter, her first song that she wrote was about 9/11. She was there when the towers came down. Yeah. You have to write about what you feel and what you know.
I absolutely agree with you.
So that's my answer.
I always say, if you have a story, you can write.
Right.
Because people ask me, you know, how did you get started writing? I say, I had a story.
Yeah.
I came up with a story. And one of my little jokey things that I say is, if you're really a good liar, you can come up with a story.
Well, I'm a lousy liar. I can't remember. And, you know, you really have to have a very good memory to be a good liar. Because you have to remember the story you told to whom. Yeah.
I know. But talk about your travel writing, please, because
well,
we need to
my travel writing really began, and to me this is the same thing. When I was a teacher, a friend invited me to go with her to Gurney's. And I wasn't into spas at the time. But after that one experience, I went and I said, gee, I was already writing about restaurants. I said, if I could write about it, I could deduct it. Anyway, he let me write about it. And from then on, I visited my mom in Florida, and I took my Gurney's article, and then I wrote about Palm Air. When I went to my sister, we went to La Costa. And all the time I was teaching, I used to take a personal day once a year, usually in January or February. And I would drive out east on a Tuesday, and I would take a morning walk on Montauk. I would have a healthy lunch. I'd have a massage, do the water classes. And I got involved in that serenity. Now remember, I was teaching 9th and 8th graders for 30 years. I also was going home to 3 daughters. A little bit of serenity in my life did not hurt, and it helped me throughout. But I became, way before spas were everywhere, a spa advocate. And that became, and I went around the world to spas, or I've gone around the world to spas, whether it's in Spain or Israel. Or I was thinking this morning about, there's a spa in Israel where the woman is very chic and beautiful, the wife who owns it, it's called Mitzpah Hayamim. But in my morning walk, I walked through the garden. And here's a guy, and he's dirty, and he's planting and whatnot. I stopped to talk to him. He's the husband, he's the owner, but he was a farmer. And again, it's the same theme of the people you meet doing interesting things. So whether it's, now I'm up to bucket list time. And in the past couple of years, my friend and I went to St. Petersburg, and last year I went to Buenos Aires. And this year I took my granddaughter to Paris and the Riviera. And I've been speaking French to her since she was born. And her younger sister was my Spanish student. In 2010, My granddaughter was starting 6th grade in this wonderful school in Lower Manhattan, PS 276. It was just opened. And the principal had a meeting with parents and said, if I could find a teacher, I'd teach the 6th graders language. My daughter tells me, I shoot an email to the principal, with me in your foreign language classroom, you'll have one less thing to worry about. And I spent a year teaching 6th graders Spanish 3 days a week. And I couldn't take some trips that year, but it was worth it. Anyway, so now I have to take that child. As soon as she graduates from high school, I'm going to take her to Spain. But my travels have just been stupendous.
Your website is very nice. Very
Thank
nice
you.
website.
Thank
Anyone who's watching the show should visit your website.
And the other thing is, I write now for local magazines, and my
Which ones?
Long Island Pulse. I contribute. The St. Petersburg appeared. I won an award for a story about winery vacations in Long Island Pulse. I just did a golf story for them, which is funny. But I mentioned some of the great golfing resorts that I've been lucky enough to take lessons at or be at. And I have contributed to Car and Travel. I wrote a piece about the Hamptons last year, and I won an award for I guess it was a circle. It was a drive around Long Island, and I've forgotten the name of it. But essentially what I did, I took the route through Jones Beach along the South Shore, but not out to it didn't include the Hamptons. It was like the stomach of the fish, all the way over to 25A, and all the historic mansions and parks, and there's so many.
Long Island is a rich treasure trove of historic places, quaint towns.
Yeah.
You don't have to sell me on Long Island.
But you know, if you stick to the southern or the northern routes, it's really a fabulous weekend trip. So I do write for some Long Island magazines.
So we're coming pretty much to the close of this interview, and I really want you to say whatever it is that you think you want the audience to hear about writing, about your books, about yourself. Talk about any new projects you have.
Well, my new projects, I think that this ought to be said about writing. The hardest part of writing is getting published.
Yes.
And it's a very funny thing that, excuse me, and I'm going to say it's an occupational hazard because I caught whatever on a plane, and it's not going away so fast. Anyway, the hardest part, even 30 some odd years later, even after writing in prestigious periodicals or writing books, is getting published. And that's as true for writing about a restaurant or writing a travel story. It's harder. And the more blogs there are, the harder it is.
Well, and also this is a very, very competitive part of the country, part of the world.
Well, that's true, but also the fact of the matter is that there's so much free stuff out there that nobody wants to pay.
Yeah, well, that's true. The internet has its downside.
That's true. And so the hardest part is getting the gigs. And so I really think that I have to start putting together some stories and getting all my facts together and writing them one at a time, because there are a whole bunch of funny stories and experiences.
Yes. That sounds like a really wonderful book. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Irvina.